The children of Israel were embedded in sin. Just outside of the promised land, they were surrounded by pagans, and they did not separate themselves from them. They, in fact, indulged in fornication with them and idolatry. God is not just disappointed, He is angry. Their leaders took them down this path to destruction, and God's wrath was pouring down on them. Disease ravaged the people, and Phinehas had to intervene. God, even when justified in his anger, is controlled by his love. He tells Moses that among these sinful people, there is one, Phinehas. Many times we react based upon our emotions and anger. The loving nature of God is seen here. Sometimes that love allows us to suffer and learn from our mistakes, but sometimes that love is grace and salvation, saving us from our own errors. But always, His actions are justified. So what do we learn from this part of our lesson? Well, this Old Testament story shows us the power of societal pressure. Then and now, group pressure produces social conformity. And that is, the people of Israel who were embedded with these pagans and with leaders that would guide them in erroneous, wrong ways, surrendered to social pressure. They began to act like the people around them, and then act like the Israelites around them, and they all went down a road to destruction without leaders that would say, no, this path is wrong. Phinehas, on the other hand, was girded by his faith, not cognizant, not caring about the social pressures and the people that were doing wrong things around him. He focused on his faith. We are always pressured to act like those around us. We get questioned, why are you so different? It is only through our faith that we will be strong enough to withstand societal pressures, to conform, to accept what is wrong as what is right. Phinehas atoned for his people, and God rewarded his faithfulness with a covenant. Again, this covenant was not a contract that required the exchange of promises. God promised that Phinehas's descendants would be priests, moral leaders among the people. Now, in Phinehas, we see one type of leader, a leader willing to stand strong even when societal pressures and tide is going in the opposite direction. The next part of our lesson, we see another kind of leader, and we see God's reaction to that leader. Now, some 340 years later, we have another priest named Phinehas, along with his brother. Now, these priests were called scoundrels because they took advantage of worshipers and seduced the women who served at the entrance to the tent of meeting. In essence, seducing the women at church. Ignoring their father's rebuke, these guys were violating virtually all the first part of the Ten Commandments. In essence, they used their positions of power to take advantage of people. Some of God's most noted wrath in the Bible is reserved for those who use their position of power and influence to take advantage of people. Clergy, deacon, counselors, physicians, leaders of all types who are in positions of trust are expected to live up to those positions and to use that trust in a way to take advantage of people in order to feed selfish lust is morally wrong. Even a loving God sometimes makes examples of corrupt people. In this Old Testament lesson, the unfaithfulness of these priests and leaders causes God to enter into another covenant, but this covenant is unlike the others we have studied. This is a negative covenant. God promises to cut the life short of the brothers on the same day, and their descendants would have shortened lives. Those who lived would be struck with illness and disabling conditions, and they would still face shortened life. In fact, God would raise up an honest priest, and their descendants would have to scrounge and beg for food and money from that priest. This demonstrates that decisions we make today will still have impact upon our descendants later. I often tell my students to take the learning of their mind to the place where the passions of their heart meet the talents of your hands, for that is the place you will make a difference. God expects us to use those talents and that knowledge He has given us, use the positions that we have for His good. He does not expect us to abuse people. He does not expect us to remain silent. With the first Phinehas, when those leaders remained silent, God pointed out to Moses that there was a Phinehas who had atoned for his people and caused him to save his people. God expects us to speak truth to power as leaders and to speak truth to our people and not fall or succumb to social pressure and not fall or succumb to our own selfish lust. That's the lesson for this week. You guys have a great week. Bye.